welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Coriander and Killian, here we are, continuing the journey of the Baba Yaga. John Wick, we're going to be talking about John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum, and once again, helmed by the legend in the making, Chad Stahelski, starring Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Ian McShane, the late, great Lance Reddick. Also introducing new characters and actors like Asia Kate Dillon and also Mark Dacascos. And this movie is just absolutely bonkers. For you guys that are watching, hopefully you checked out our episode on John Wick 1 and John Wick 2. With 3, it did really, really well. It was a big success. It had a higher budget of $75 million and made a box office much more than 2. It made $328 million, I believe, and has an 89% Rotten Tomato score. Coriander, I'll start with you. What's your quick take on this continuing saga of John Wick?
Wow, is all I have to say.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Kill?
Somehow they keep outdoing themselves.
Right.
And it's just, you're just watching these movies and you're like, oh, clearly this one isn't going to be that much better, or it's just going to break even, or it might even be bad. No, they just keep upping the ante and just doing more inventive. He's fighting people on a horse, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so essentially, just like Coriander, wow.
When I first saw this movie, I was literally thinking to myself, what can they do? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's just absolutely just so crazy what they were able to do in this movie. I mean, they were able to up the ante from 2, which I didn't think was possible whatsoever, and they just kept going. John Wick, obviously at the end of 2, was on the run because he had an hour. Winston was able to delay the excommunicado for an hour, meaning that he has no services of the Continental or anything associated with the Continental, which is literally like everything. Or virtually everything.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, all right, so we're gonna get into our main topics here. Okay, so the movie starts off, it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, it just looks so stylistic. Everything about this film is just eye candy. Let's talk about maybe our favorite scene.
Oh, man. The scene where he's fighting those, I think it's those Asian guys, and they're using all those knives and busting through those cases, and that scene was awesome, man. I mean, just the knife handling. I mean, it was crazy shit, and that was like one of my favorite scenes was this one right here.
Yeah, man. I mean, the movie started off, and he's obviously on the run. He still has a couple tricks up his sleeve, going to the New York Public Library, and he's obviously going to be hunted by so many people because of the bounty on his head. And Kill, especially for you, man, and I don't know for people watching if they know this, but as soon as he's going through the street, people start turning their head and stuff like that. And one of my boys, Tiger Chen, he turns his head. And for anyone into martial arts, Tiger Chen was in The Matrix Reloaded with Keanu Reeves, and he's also done other work with Keanu Reeves, including Man of Tai Chi. And as soon as I saw Tiger Chen, I was like, oh boy, here we go. And he had a really cool little fight scene, did a little kung fu, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, he got stabbed in the eye.
That was a brutal one too, man. Like, oh, you could feel it.
Yes. Oh my God, yeah. Kill, what did you think of that scene? Because I thought it was just cool because John's up against the clock. He has no weapons, and he's literally putting guns together and shit.
Yeah, for me, that was the highlight. Of course, the fighting, but he's looking for a gun, and he sees antique revolvers, and he sees
Mhm.
bullets. Like, okay, well, this bullet can't fit in this chamber. Man, okay, let me. He's essentially being a gunsmith in the middle of
Yes.
still fighting these guys that are highly skilled.
Yes.
So
Yes.
for me, that scene just also illustrates how calm, cool, and collected in the heat of all of this insane violence that John Wick is a consummate professional.
Right.
Mhm.
He
Right.
can still keep his composure, putting a
Mhm.
gun together, and at the last second getting it together and having one in the chamber and using it. I think,
Mhm.
if memory serves, he only shot one person
He
like one
did.
time with it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I guess he didn't know how well the antique would take more shots, so he just
Right.
didn't risk it. You're
Yeah.
good for at least one. So,
Yeah, yeah. But it was just so cool because it's. I guess what I'm saying is, and I totally agree with Coriander. This is a great scene, and it's right in the beginning of the movie. It's within 5 minutes of the movie, and it just already is putting you on the edge of your seat, up against the clock. You're nervous, you're anxious, and you're just trying to wonder. You're trying to figure out how he's going to get the fuck out of this situation. He had no guns. So, anyways. Great seeing Coriander. I absolutely love it, and it was cool seeing Tiger Chen in it. Shout out to the martial artists out there, because he rocks, and him and Keanu Reeves are good friends. So it's just cool that a lot of these
Oh, that's
guys
cool.
get to still hang out with each other from way back in the Matrix days, including Chad
Mhm.
Stahelski. So it's really, really cool. Kill, how about you? Do you have a scene that stands out, or maybe was your favorite, or that you'd like to talk about?
yeah, I do have one that kind of hits near and dear to my heart. I love dogs. Okay.
Right.
And the Halle Berry's dogs that she has in here look a lot like my dog. And essentially, you have Keanu Reeves, Halle Berry, and her two attack dogs
Mhm.
fighting pretty much a platoon of guys.
Yes.
And the choreography is so beautiful just between Keanu and Halle Berry. But then you throw in the fact that, like, Halle also has these dogs that are like weapons themselves. And
Mhm.
she just gives verbal commands. And they're on you. They're biting nuts. They're climbing up walls. They're disarming.
There's your boy,
you.
your boy
Yeah.
from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, there you go. They're holding Hallie's guns for her. So these dogs are like a jack of all trades. These are Swiss Army dogs. Like they're good for everything.
Right, right.
And just essentially the gunplay. I mean, they're in Casablanca, and it's, for one, that's beautiful. It
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of like a scene from like Indiana Jones,
Mhm. Mhm.
but a bloody version with lots of death and bullets. And of
Mhm.
course, to see Halle Berry in here doing her thing, she was just as good as Keanu,
Yes.
and just as skilled, if not maybe even more, because she has two dogs. So this was just an amazing scene, and my hat is off to her as well. We
Yeah.
know how hard the training and intense the training is, and I've seen video of her doing the pre-production training as well.
Right.
Do not
Yep.
mess with Halle Berry. Okay, don't mess with Keanu, and definitely do not mess with Halle Berry, because I saw her running the same gauntlet that Keanu did, and wow. And once again, that for me is what makes this franchise stand out so much. The effort the actors put in, the choreography, the people that teach the gun mechanics. It
Right.
looks so real and so authentic. It's just amazing.
Yeah, man. I mean, the dogs were jumping on her back, and doing all these things. And Halle Berry,
Being
she
cute.
trained for months. Yes, absolutely. She trained for months to be able to pull off what she had to do. And I think I had read at one point they were like, well, we can kind of do this to make it easier or something like that. Or maybe they were thinking of doing a little bit of double work for her. And she said, no, I want to go all in. And I think she actually had injured her ribs during the process of filming, but she was a trooper and kept going, and you can see it. In other words, you can see it on the screen. She looks very realistic and believable in this world. And the way she fights, it's similar to John Wick, but a bit different. And she uses the dogs as kind of that counterbalance, you know what I'm saying? And it was really, really good. Really, really good. Great scene. For me, there's a bunch of scenes that I could talk about. But the thing that got me is, before John Wick, there was a movie that I feel as though kind of changed the action genre. And it is still to this day such a great film, and it spawned a sequel. We're still waiting for a part 3. I don't know, but that's a movie called The Raid. And in this movie, Kill, you know where I'm going with this. Look, not only do they have the chief villain from the first Raid movie in this film, but they also have the chief villain from the second movie. And Kill, and this is near the end of the movie, and we're kind of skipping around, but we just want to talk about some high points right now. Kill, after John Wick, he's battling with Halle Berry to find the Elder so he can kind of make amends and kind of reset everything that has happened up to this point through these 2.5 movies. And the Elder says, well, the only way that your excommunicado will be revoked and you'll be back into our graces is to go back to New York and to kill Winston. That's the deal, right? So of course John Wick, he leaves where Halle Berry was. He's going back to New York, and assassins are still after him, because he's back out in the open. And Kill, as soon as I saw this scene right here, there's your boy. I knew it was on like Donkey Kong, man. And it's this huge. I mean, there's multiple scenes that happen, including battles on motorcycles with samurai swords. Okay, like, how amazing is this shit? And Keanu Reeves is right there in the midst of it, but he actually had to fight not one but both of the guys from the Raid. And I'm not gonna butcher their names. I know their names, but I don't want to butcher them. But it was such a great finale, and that wasn't even the end. You know what I mean? It was just, as far as martial arts is concerned, it was just such a cool moment, because it was kind of like a baton that was being passed, kind of, at least to me, at least as a fan. That's how I kind of felt, because now John Wick to me is the premier action franchise, whereas I think the Raid was for quite a long time before that. But it was just a fantastic way to get towards the end before he ultimately fights our boy Mark Dacascos as Zero. But in which he was amazing too. And we love Mark Dacascos from way back in the day with Only the Strong. A lot of other people might know him on the Food Network, on what was it, Iron Chef or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's a very talented dude. I actually love him, and he was quirky, which was kind of interesting to see that, in a John Wick film, but
he was my favorite character in this one, Zero.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about favorite characters. What about Zero, really? Because, even when you're introduced to him, when the adjudicator, who, by the way, just some crazy scenes, but when the adjudicator basically comes to him and says, we've got a problem, and he's getting his sushi together, and he's so nonchalant, you wouldn't know. I mean, I knew because I know who he is, but as far as a character, you didn't know what he was capable of. What was it about him that you found interesting?
Like you said, he was quirky, dangerous as hell. I mean, he pretty much lets everybody know that he's like it. And the ending, I just thought he was funny till the very end, when he died. So, yeah,
absolutely.
He was the good character in this.
He was. Kill, what did you think of Mark Dacascos in it?
Oh, he was hilarious. Like, and you don't expect it. Like, especially when he's just sitting there and he looks really tough, and he's just like, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I just wanna, dude, I'm a big, look at him.
Yeah, the look that Keanu gives him, man, it was great. You don't sit that close to a man.
Yeah. Like, hey, you are if he's your target. Like, I'm not letting you out of my sight.
Yeah, absolutely. Good pick, Coriander. Good pick. Well, Kill, how about you? Do you have a character that stood out big time for you?
I really don't. But
Okay.
what I do have is I liked once again the expansion of the world and
Yeah.
little characters. Like I enjoyed seeing the Romaruski
Mm.
and essentially their queen, who's just I believe that was like Angelica Houston,
Yeah,
if,
Angelica
if
Houston.
if memory serves. And I'm like, okay, I love Angelica Houston. Haven't seen her in a while, and she's the queen of this syndicate. And he's like, John Donnie, look at you. What do you want from me?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's this motherly conversation that she's having with him, but it's also very sinister because this woman is like the taskmaster and trains their assassins
Mm.
and puts them through hell, as you see with the ballerina. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a room with boys wrestling on like hardwood floor, dropping
Mm-hmm.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right,
I
exactly. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, so this place is no joke. This is
Mm-hmm.
the Red Room. This is Black Widow, where she trained. It's all of that stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
And another character, and this one just might be funny, but I really enjoyed her, the Adjudicator. It was just something about her that, like, she once again, this movie and this world is just showing us all these auxiliary characters that may not be on the action side, but they're with the paperwork side, or just the legal side. She's like a hardcore lawyer that just it has no fear in going into these places, going to
Mm-hmm.
Winston's face and telling him you're done in his
Mm-hmm.
own kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, going into the Bowery where Lawrence Fishburne does his
Yeah.
thing, and having Zero and his boys do a number on him. So this woman is badass, and the
Mm-hmm.
way that she shows it is very interesting. And just these characters, these names, the Adjudicator. It's like,
Yeah.
what is this world we're watching
Right.
here?
Well,
So,
when
yeah.
when the Adjudicator first gets there, first of all, and shout out to Asia Kate Dillon, who is a very interesting person to listen to in interviews and stuff like that. I've seen some of her interviews on like Ellen and things like that, and she's playing this very androgynous character, which is purposeful, by the way. And when she comes on, it's just a certain, like, it's like a sinister vibe, but yet
Mhm.
it's not like aggressive. It's like passive aggressive. And even the late great Lance Reddick, when she comes in and she just basically looks at him, passes the coin, and Lance, again, of course, we expect nothing less, but Lance Reddick's face told you, oh shit. And he picks up the phone and he's like, sir, there is an adjudicator here for you.
Sir, there is an adjudicator here to see you.
And it's like, uh-oh, because we didn't know. We didn't know. And no, she was absolutely badass. One of my favorite, I was gonna say that too, one of my favorite characters. And even when she met Zero, again at the sushi bar, which, like Coriander was saying, he was very interesting, and so was she. And their conversation together was just like, again, I think that the strength of these movies is you're in this world that has been building and building and continue to build, but you have these interesting characters, and they all have their different flavor. You know what I'm saying? They all have their different ways that they talk, even though there is a universal language for these assassins, but they have different demeanors. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I agree with you, man. A great character, the Adjudicator, hardcore, man, hardcore. For me though, I think Halle Berry kind of just stole the show for me. When I saw this in the theater, and knowing that she was going to be in it, and just wondering how they were going to utilize her, and like you said earlier, Kill, with the scene with the dogs and fighting, that was a long scene. That was a very long scene, because not only did John go to her and say, hey, this is my game plan, and had a marker on her, which I thought was interesting too. They're still building up this world, and I think that was the marker. Well, maybe it wasn't. No, I think that was the marker. Winston gave him one at the end of 2. He said you may need this or something like that. Maybe that isn't the same one, but point being is that John Wick was smart. You know, he knew that he had, I guess you could say, some leverage. You know, there was a friendship there, but he used it to help himself, which is what he needed because he had very few allies. But that scene with the dogs, it was fantastic. It was brutal. It was, you know, intense, and the camera work, the cinematography throughout was just flawless. It was absolutely flawless. So yeah, so I think I'd go with Halle Berry, just because, and even when John first gets there, she shoots him, you know, and she's like, don't do it. She doesn't want him to use the marker, you know, and we come to find out, and this is another thing that builds Wick as a character. His backstory is that he helped to hide her daughter, you know, so her daughter would be safe. You know what I mean? So in other words, it just again shows, even though he's a cold-blooded assassin, you know, he has morals. He has people that do care about him, or at least see him, you know, as more than just Baba Yaga. You know what I mean? And it was interesting. You know, he's literally getting horses. We've seen him with the gun foo. We've seen the car foo. Now we're seeing horse foo, because literally,
Nice.
you got horses killing people for John Wick. It was crazy.
It's good.
It was crazy. How about you, Kill? Any other things that jump out at you for John Wick 3?
I enjoyed the whole John walking in the desert
Yes.
for seemingly days,
Right.
looking for the elder to try to find some way of getting this the excommunicado off of him, and kind of having an Assassin's Creed moment. Shouts out to video game players, you'll know what I mean, where he has to prove he really will serve
Committed.
and be of service.
Yes.
By cutting his finger off and giving it to the elder. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed that, because once again, it just shows the mental, or the metal that this man has. He cuts his finger off and barely makes a peep.
Yeah.
Wraps it up and presents it. So yeah, I mean, you know, badass scene, and you know, and it's just interesting because, you know, he at this point doesn't have any other recourse. You know.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because that's what I was wondering, is like, what else can he do? He's like, you know, supposedly at the top of the food chain with the elder, you know, so it's like it's either that or die. So it was almost like, and the elder even said, you've come here just to start over at the beginning, you know, and that's when they gave him the deal that we'll forgive you if you kill Winston, which, you know, that was crazy too, because, you know, when he goes back to New York, the adjudicator, which, by the way, when the adjudicator came into the story, the adjudicator is basically dueling out punishment to Winston, to Angelica Houston, and also to the Bowery King for helping Wick, you know, giving any assistance whatsoever. And so when Wick comes back, you know, the adjudicator is like, you've been given a direct order, what are you going to do? And for a moment, I was wondering if he was gonna shoot Winston, you know, because it's like, well, if you don't, then what has everything been for? You know what I'm saying? But of course, he chooses not to, and so then it's the big finale at the Continental, which was badass, by the way. Oh my god. And I love it, you know, when they start playing the music. And even what was cool was Sharon, played by Lance Reddick, he got involved a little bit more too, you know, talking about the bullets, because they got better armor. Fantastic finale. I mean, I'm sure you guys agree with that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was crazy. You had stuff that was happening underwater, and the lighting was different. Again, just great stuff. But let's also just talk about the last thing that happened, the finale. They basically hold off like dozens and dozens of these soldiers basically coming to represent the high table. And then it's funny because the adjudicator says, let's have a parlay, and kind of talk this thing out. And it was like, okay. And basically, said, well, hey, to Winston, we're going to give you the hotel back if you kill Wick. And so it's like, so it keeps going back and forth. And then he shoots John, and John goes off of the roof. And I was, at first when I saw that, I was like stunned. I was like, what? After all that?
It was crazy, and it always sucks when they end, and
right.
Yeah. But anyway, it was good.
It caught me off guard. They went through all of this, and
right.
And like Ian McShane was very cool in his panic room, just like, okay, you guys need guns, go ahead. I'm gonna sit here and drink.
Yes.
And,
he's with the dog.
Yeah, and to have Sharon and John kind of go out with the troops and kill all these guys and lose some of their own security men in the process, just to be shot off the roof, by Winston's like, well, damn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, man. Exactly. And of course, the stinger at the end of it is that he's not dead because, when you need help on the street, you got to have some faith in the hobos, baby. And so the hobos bring him back to the king himself, who was not killed. He just had 7 cuts because he gave Wick 7 bullets in John Wick 2. And basically at the end, it was just funny. And Lawrence Fishburne was great too. Shout out to Lawrence Fishburne. He was a favorite character of mine as well. And he was just like, I'm pretty pissed about this high table shit. Are you pissed, John? Are you pissed? And of course, you gotta love Keanu Reeves. What a career, man. Like, someone, when they do some type of movie on him, I just hope that they craft
titled
it
Yeah.
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 Good for you, Coriander, that you said that. Good for you, girl. Because it was just great. Because are you pissed, John? And Keanu has that little pause first, right? He's like, yeah. And it's like, he's the best. People like Keanu Reeves, Christopher Walken, William Shatner, that have that kind of interesting cadence to their speech. They're remembered, good or bad, but usually for the better, they're remembered. So anyways, so it basically ends on a cliffhanger where you're sitting there wondering, okay, so it's going to be Wick and the Bowery King against the high table, or New York, I should say, against the high table. And it was a great movie. A lot of fun. Lots of fun. Anyways. Definitely. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much all we have for John Wick Chapter 3. For you guys watching, please let us know what you think about the film. A lot to talk about. We just covered a lot of the high points. Let us know in the comment section what you enjoyed about it, what your favorite characters were, and so forth. And also, if you haven't, please hit the like button. That would really help to support the channel. We'd appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed to the Night Watch Zone, do it now, or else the Baba Yaga is going to come for you. Anyways, we'll catch you guys later. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.
A church.